an interim ordinance, then you gotta notice it, gotta adopt it. And then what that does is give you kind of a timeline from, about a year to 18 months where you gotta do these, steps to redo and readdress whatever the reason was that you outlined in that moratorium. You pick and say, okay, we're doing moratorium because of A. That's what you work through. And I think when I was here before, we talked about that ordinance priority list. And the idea was to take wind, solar, tower, and public utilities that are all kind of in that same energy realm and mash them together here in probably 28, once we get through a couple of the ordinances. Wind and solar are two of our ordinances that are a little more, I'll call them newer. Yes, they're a little dated, but not as dated as quite a few of our other ones. So that was kind of the priority list there. I don't have too much else on them. They're straightforward in the fact that you basically identify what your issue is and draft an interim one. There are some example ones we can use out there. Basically just pick what your issue is and set a timeline, and then you work through that process just like regular ordinance. So. On the back of that pros and cons sheet is kind of like a rough timeline. They basically are pretty flexible on all those, but a good rule of thumb on those is kind of what we usually see when we do these things. That's how long they take. So, by the time you have it there and done, you're still looking at 6 months to a year before we have a fully adopted ordinance. Usually just from my office standpoint, Justin having to review or hiring outside help to review, or if you look at somebody else drafting it, you can maybe speed it up. So it just kind of depends on the route you guys want to go or what we do. We won't decide that today because it's a work discussion, so, but. Any questions? The other thing with moratoriums too is you have to be you try to be a lot more narrow than you are broad when you write definitions of why you're doing it. If you're too broad, you need to address a lot of different things. If you're a little more narrow, you pick, once you have that thing addressed, you can then keep moving through the process. So. Just saying you want to do it because you want to update it, I don't know if that qualifies, but if you want to do it because you need the public safety side, our setbacks aren't good enough, or our setbacks are too big, or whatever, that narrow your scope a little bit.
Would the board like to hear from the people in the room, or?
Yeah. Or do you want to make?
Yeah, please. And just to add on to what Reed had to say about this happened in Traverse County.
Yeah.
And so they did the moratorium, and then they had a subcommittee that they formed. It was members of the community, and I think 2 or 3 people from the board working on it. And after they had several meetings, after a year, they still hadn't come up with a final. So they did extend it for another year, and the state statute does allow it, as long as you're working on it or you started it, they do allow you to continue it for another year. But anyways, I gave you guys all a big packet, and I won't go through everything in here. I just want to kind of touch on some of the reasons that I think that you should, well, put a moratorium in until we can get a bigger ordinance. Currently, I think our ordinance is just a few pages.
Dozen, maybe?
Yeah, and like the Traverse County one, I think is 52 pages long. So there is a lot of, I don't think Stevens County's is quite that long, but.
There's this 25 or 30, but
yeah.
Stevens also includes their solar and there are a couple other options in there too.
Right.
Which is more the route. I guess let me go.
Right. But anyway, so on the first little packet with the colored photos, a lot of people, when they think of wind farms, they think of just like a turbine, and there's a lot of things, especially really large wind farms, that they have all of these things listed on here that take up a lot of space and do, concern with the county. on the next page on the tower heights, you can see how, this 4.88 megawatt tower is 650 feet tall. And those are, I know the ones down, the wind farm that they're trying to set up down in Stevens and Swift, they were talking about 5 megawatt towers. So, which are like 750 feet tall. So these things are massive. It's really hard to, you know, the smaller one, the 1.6, I think the one's on my half and a 408 feet tall. So obviously much, much larger. Another important thing that I would like you to consider is, the Met towers, those are the towers that measure like wind speed and all the things. And when they put them up in a day. And they did 3 down in Stevens County in a week. And then they have all the guy wires on them. They don't have to mark them. I did get them to notify me when they were going up, so at least, because they don't show up on maps, so if our pilots are out spraying, they've sprayed that field 100 times, and tomorrow they go in there and there's, you know, a tower that they didn't know existed. So there are many things that you can talk about an hour on markings of Met towers, but, on the next few pages, as you scroll through it, I just talk about some of the impacts it has on aerial application, which is what got me interested in, changing ordinances, and, obviously they can be very fatal. The first picture is one that actually hit a Met tower. Next pictures are actually one of our aircraft that had an accident with a power line on a Met tower. So it's things that, you know, are real life things that happen to people we know. If you keep flipping to the one that shows this blue map on it. So this is another thing that we talked about extensively in Traverse County, is nobody really understands sometimes like how much an airplane needs to make a turn. But on here you can see those blue loops. That's the path the airplane takes. The blue on the north part of the picture is the field that he was actually spraying. So they need a lot of room. That's why when we talk about setbacks and ordinances, that's why some of them, we ask them to be a mile or more for non-participating landowners, because this is one of the many reasons. Another issue with them is shadow flicker. You know, that's like, I don't know if you guys understand what that is, but it's when the blade is going in front of the sun and it looks like a light switch is just flipping on and off. And there's a lot of controversy on this with many wind farms. I'm not sure. I've heard of one landowner by the wind farm in Hoffman that saw it all the time, and it can create migraines and nausea and all the things. So I'll keep kind of moving through this quickly so you guys can always go back and look. Another thing is the noise. They can be very noisy, especially when there's maybe foggier conditions or, and they can be as loud as an airplane sometimes. So that's why setbacks is super important in ordinances. On the it was on the Department of Commerce page. I think they've now moved it to the Minnesota PUC page, where every wind farm in the state of Minnesota they have to take their complaints and they have to post them online. I think it's monthly that they do it. And so I highlighted some of the complaints that other wind farms, you know, and of course it's the same things like, well, drain tile, that's really not a county concern, but, the noise, the light, they can't open their windows because the noise bothers their small children. I mean, there's just tons of complaints on noise and shadow flicker. And some of their, I kind of had a laugh when they say, well, we'll call budget blinds and you can get new blinds put in your house and we'll pay for them. Like, well, I don't think that's what people were looking for, but that was their solution. My solution would be make the setback bigger so they don't have to deal with it. Another big thing is the concrete. A lot of people don't understand like how much concrete goes into these turbines and this Nobles 2 project, this is the photo I have of Nobles 2, so there was a Nobles 1 project down in Nobles County, and recently there was a Nobles 2 project. And these were 3.6 megawatt turbines. And that's 11 feet deep. The 5 megawatt turbines, they're saying it would be probably 15 feet deep and a minimum of 60 yards of concrete per turbine. So, and when they decommission these, they're not required to dig out all of that concrete. They're just, a lot of the contracts say 4 feet, which is essentially the base, you know, that holds the.
Knock it down below grade.
Right,
Be done
yeah,
with it.
but it's, you know, that concrete is in that ground forever and ever. The next picture I showed is a crane, and it's probably kind of hard to see, but I've watched videos of these things, they are so massive that they come in pieces and they have to assemble them at the job site. And so you can imagine what that does for compaction on the soil and the damage it causes to drain tile and all those things. Next photo is of a battery storage facility. And this this is obviously a pretty big wind farm. But this did happen there's one of these down in Iowa, a farm that I went and toured, and these are huge facilities. And what this does, it just store, like if they can't get all of the power out onto the grid, they store them in here and then release it when there's, you know, more room on the lines to move it. Again, I will hound on this whole decommissioning. On the next picture, you can see like they're literally just cut these blades up and they're dumping dirt over them. And this happens all the time because they can't be recycled.
They can't be now. There's
They-
a place in Iowa that brings in the vinyl siding.
Yep,
And
and
then they've
some
been
child
using
playgrounds, but
That, or they've been grinding when using, like a fiberglass in concrete.
right.
So they've been trying, that's one of the big, USDA's big pushes to find ways to do that.
And I've been told like the newer wind farms have more recyclable material than like the ones in Hoffman. It's my understanding they don't, because they are so old. And then when it comes to the cost of decommissioning these, I included a little article. This was down in Oklahoma. This is a pretty rare situation. But they put a wind farm up on a reservation and they shouldn't have. And the reservation fought it. They ended up winning, and it cost $300 million to take it down. Because which is $3.5 million per turbine. And that was because they made them take out all of the concrete, like the entire thing. But again, Nobles County 1, they did some repowering a few years ago. And it was $530 per turbine to take those down. I don't know how big those were. I could probably do a little bit more research and figure it out, but I think that's quite honestly insane. And these are just some photos you can flip through on your own, but we flew down to Blue Earth, Minnesota, and then took a car and drove around into Ledyard, Iowa, where they had just put up a brand new farm. They were 4.5 megawatt towers. And I was like just in awe of the size of these things. They're massive. And there were substations like all over, like one here and then literally across the highway on the other side was, so they obviously require a lot of infrastructure too. And the last page was a picture. I kind of put a red box around it. It just shows like how big that base is. You can see the darker circle around it. It's a massive massive area. And obviously that service road leading up to it is probably, if you're a farmer, you're looking at it thinking, how in the heck am I gonna farm this? But, it's a lot of headlands. But that's kind of all I have for the kind of the anatomy of a wind farm. I will leave you, I also gave you these are some of the, I don't know, biggest points for me on setbacks and met towers and safety standards for fire departments and all that. I obviously won't take too much of your time. And then the blue sheet, I actually differentiated between Grant County, Traverse County, and Stevens County on their current ordinance, so you can kind of see how things have changed, when it comes to, this is on setbacks. The other thing that I found was a little interesting is, so I provided you, this is the entire, this big packet is the actual permit for the Grant County Wind Farm by Hoffman. And this is the application, which I just included one page because I wanted to show you on the decommissioning. So if you go to the permit, so they mention beginning in the 16th year of operation, an annual set aside of $5,000 per turbine is scheduled for each year of operation. This will provide a fund in the amount of at least $500,000 to pay for decommissioning and site restoration costs after the operation ceases. I thought it was interesting that that was in the permit, or like the application for the permit, but it wasn't, I didn't find it anywhere in the actual permit. And so that leads me to believe, like, my question to you would be like, well, what happens if that wind farm, Grant County Wind LLC, goes bankrupt today? Like, how is that going to affect the county if they just abandon that? And that's one of the, honestly, I don't know the answer to that. And that's kind of why I included that. One of the last sheets is this Department of Commerce sheet, and it's from 2020. And if you go towards the back, I highlighted the Grant County Wind. And so it looks like they had to report of like kind of how they plan to pay for the decommissioning. And they're estimating the cost to be $48,000 per turbine. I don't know where they're getting, I don't know how they figured that out, but I think that is extremely inaccurate. I don't think it's only gonna cost $48,000. And then they're claiming that that's the salvage value. Well, I guess I don't have any proof, or I don't know how much it's actually worth. I've done a lot of reading where they've said that that's not the case. So I just left you with a list of questions, maybe to ask somebody to find out of like, what's gonna happen if this farm, you know, doesn't make it. Are you guys on the hook to take this down at some point? And how does that look? So that is kind of my, I would say short synopsis of wind. And I'm obviously, I am no expert. I've just been involved in the Traverse County one for the last 3 years. There's some other people in Traverse County that worked on the current ordinance that have a lot more information than I do that couldn't be here today. But I know would be happy to speak to any of you if you have questions. And Reed, I don't know, have you talked to anybody at the Grant County Wind recently? Like
Last week, yep.
And what have they said is their plan?
They're still hold up with, they have a RFP for somebody to purchase their power still from the wind turbines. They are still waiting to do what their final plan is. They did a hole the other day to meet their federal tax break stuff to show that they like started work, but not really started work. Because if you just push it shut, you'd be done. But other than that, they're still in the, not sure what to do. Their consultants have gone through a couple different folks to try and figure out what they're doing, and they're trying to do the financial pieces to make sure the money works before they jumping through and deciding what form of a repower they do, whether that's just like servicing everything, tear down, start over.
Right.
Like whatever they're still working through all the different options, but they have to wait and see what they get bids back for on the power that they're selling,
Okay.
so.
Right, and that,
Still in limbo.
that there kind of brings me back to the whole, why I think a moratorium is so important, because I feel like with our ordinance being so, I don't know if the word is lax, but you know,
Broad
right, it's,
latitude.
and I have heard from a landowner over there that their plan was to take the 10 down and put up 7 bigger ones.
It's one of the options that they have.
If they do that, they do have to go through the permitting process with the
Now,
PUC.
yeah. UC and us.
Yeah,
The
and
first
there
time,
has,
there was no county permits when they did the first time, so they
Right.
only went through PUC, and then the county permitted their subdivision piece, is all the county permit.
right,
Then this time around, there would have to be a much better decommissioning plan versus the last time we had no. ability to do a decommissioning
right, it was
plan,
very
so
new.
that's how it's a subdivision versus a.
Yeah. Yeah,
Rita, I got a question. So are you talking to the owners?
The owners, and then I talked to their consultants both a couple of times.
Okay.
So,
who does own?
a group out of they're out of the cities.
Okay,
There's locals that are tied to it though.
Correct, and the local folks who live there, farm around it, all of them have been in contact from the very beginning, and let them dig this big test hole that's gonna sit open for, you know, so long. They signed it and flagged it, but
and you know why they did that, right?
they meet the tax break still, just like anybody else. If
Which
you
is
had to buy
deadline
I
was
know
July
it.
for the taxes,
We'll talk.
it's
Yeah.
a several place.
I ain't gonna spit names out here. I know what's going on.
Yeah.
It ain't as good as it looks.
No, yeah, that's just a,
There's kind of a
anyway.
cloak of secrecy there.
but I have, talked with some of the people that live around there, and I don't mean to call you out, but, Dwayne is one of them, and I know he has some firsthand knowledge of what it's like living next to them, and, I talked to another gentleman last night who's lived there his whole life and has had a lot of issues with the shadow flicker and the noise and, so, yeah. So I think it's just very important that we do something quickly to protect the people of the county and, especially if they're getting bigger.
Does this gentleman live by the lights? You wanna say anything?
Yes, I do. My name's Dwayne Anderson. I've got a bit of a unique perspective. I live closest to the furthest northwest tower. Have any of you seen light flicker? Well, I'm gonna show you some light flicker. Pass that around if you would.
I bet you.
I can bring it up.
He's fine.
Oh, okay.
And my grandparents little smile from him.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Exactly. You don't realize it until you've actually seen it or experienced it. It's like someone literally standing in a room, flipping the light on.
An X-ray machine.
Yeah.
In the town out there, where
And that's 6 months out of the year I get to enjoy this.
How many hours a day do you experience that, Dwayne,
Hour and a half to 2 hours
per day?
per day, 6 months out of the year. It bothered me so much that my office, I moved from the front of the house to the back of the house. And you can still see the flicker if you look out the window, but this is the front of the house. And that, I believe, is a reason that some states have a 2.5 mile minimum setback. If you get it that far away, it's gonna be less dramatic, and we actually get a double flicker. There is one a little bit further out, and we get a real light flicker from that one, but the one closest is the most dramatic. Noise, we've got to sleep with, some type of a noise, like a white noise machine, to drown out the roar, because it is significant most time. If it's, fog or light snow, it's actually louder. It's like it hits the blades. Another thing I'll mention is when they put those turbines up, I did some homework and I talked to a lot of folks back at that point. And they do get hit by lightning. It's a fact. They're tall, they do get hit. I believe there's 300 gallons of gear oil in the reducer in the turbine. At the time that those were put up, the closest fire department that had the capacity to reach the reducer was Wilmer. Now, if they get bigger, I mean, you know what, just let it burn and then call it a day. That's, even to have Wilmer come up, it's not a quick trip. If it's gonna be gone by the time they get there. I'm a hunter. I've shot deer out of my grove, out of the trees where I live. Since they put the turbines up, seeing a deer is rare. The deer don't like them. Waterfowl, ducks and geese don't like them. Pheasants don't seem to care. Pheasants are the only thing I've seen that it doesn't bother them. But the other animals that I hunt on a regular basis, they're nowhere to be found. And I know we're crunched on time. I don't even want to talk about, I don't have enough time to talk about property value. I know that my property value is not near what it was before they were put up. Not with the light flicker, the noise. So,
Okay, well,
in
we
a
appreciate,
nutshell,
yeah, we appreciate that, yeah, cause I know where you live.
yep.
Uh,
And I'm not against wind turbines. I just think they need to be a little bit further away from where people live, because it affects how you live. A negative way, it's not good for anybody.
Okay, well, thank you for coming. Okay, it's 9 o'clock, I'll call the meeting to order. Good. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we do have time set aside for public comment. Does anybody want to make any public comment today? Okay. Hearing none, then I'll call for the approval of the agenda.
Like there was 2 additions that were sent to the board.
Okay.
The, sheriff's office addition for the Barrett, siren tower. And then also, human resources for the BSO officer position.
Okay, so with those additions, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Bill makes a motion to approve the agenda. Do we have a second? Second. We have a second by Troy.
Do you want to place them on the agenda at a specific time?
Well, the sheriff's office is here. We can do it right away. Is that what, whether you're,
Yes, they are, but, yeah, it's up to you how you would like to do that. Just need to know, to let everybody, let HR know.
yeah, we'll put them on, right after we approve the minutes and warrants. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Okay, approval of the meeting minutes from June 16th and July 1st.
I'd like to motion to approve both sets of minutes.
Okay, Troy makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Second by Doyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, approval of the warrants. They were sent out yesterday, so. motion to the warrants.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay, so it is 9:05, and I think we probably should stick with this, agenda here for a little bit anyway, so we'll go to the Grant County EMS committee, Tina.
All right. In your packet, you received the revised and updated Grant County Local Sprint Paramedic Program Plan. This was brought to the board a month ago, and we had some discussion about the capital assets and adding the Sprint truck to the capital schedule that's included with this plan. So we went back and worked on that. And when we did that, we came up with that one page that was also included in your packet that kind of broke down what that $165,000 appropriation would be as it's spelled out in the plan itself. And through that conversation, we decided that we needed to put together a draft, and that was sent to you yesterday, EMS agreement that talks about the capital assets when something is purchased with those appropriation dollars. And so the agreement is just a draft that our county attorney put together, and we have some more work to meet and do on this, but we really wanted to bring it to the board, and timing as luck would have it. I did send a link to the NPR article about our local Sprint paramedic program. And to the commissioners, if you haven't seen it, it's an NPR article, and it talks about our program and the other 2 areas in Minnesota that were included with the legislative funding pilot program. And Senator Rasmussen is here today. Welcome, Senator. And I know he's been very vital to that legislative conversation. So in Grant County, our committee has done a lot of work on talking about and researching what it looks like when the legislative funding ends for those pilot projects. We know we have a lot of success with ours here in Grant County, so we want to ensure that we can continue that service when the legislative funding does sunset. And so there's some questions that have come up with that around the legislative funding as well. And Senator is here today to maybe hopefully help us understand maybe what the legislative plan is when that does sunset, and what that might mean for us here in Grant County. But nonetheless, we want to be ready to have an approved plan and be just ready to start out with our own local program, and what that looks like when and if that funding does sunset, goes away, however we want to term that. So that's really the basis of the conversation today. We would be looking for an approval to approve our local Grant County Sprint Paramedic Program Plan that you guys have in your packet that we discussed a month ago after we added the Sprint truck to it, like the board directed us. And so with that, I just kind of open it up to maybe the 2 commissioners on the committee, Dwight and Bill, if you have anything to add, and if Senator has anything to maybe add, if you have any updates legislatively, what make that, what those are.
Well, I have a little bit, I'm just thrilled that we have that program in this county, and Otter Tail too, because it benefits both counties. So, but I do have a question for the senator. Is there any talk of extending this program to where maybe this funding will keep coming to Otter Tail and Grant or other counties in the state?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. And first off, just want to say thank you for Grant County's leadership on the Sprint Medic program. I would say of the 3 counties that are participating, Grant County, I would say is the furthest ahead in terms of demonstrating value to the people of the area. And just had the opportunity to talk with the Office of EMS, and they're very appreciative of the work that the board is doing, but also the local EMS providers are working with the Sprint Medic model. In terms of the funding, the
current law would sunset funding for the program on June 30th of 2027. And it was funded with one-time money. I would say, tough to tell if there will be new money appropriated. I think one of the ideas with the Sprint Medic model and why they picked 3 different counties was to see the value and the potential sustainability of it in different areas of the state, to look at this as a model going forward. I would say, what's probably more likely to occur than new money coming in or having this be a permanent funding from the state would be to extend the current appropriation beyond June 30th, 2027. It's my understanding that there might be leftover money, basically, for the Sprint Medic program between Ottertail County and Grant County. It took a while to hire people and to get the service up and running, so that it leaves some additional money that's likely to be unspent. And so my plan currently is to go into the next legislative session with legislation that would look to extend the money that's already been appropriated.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Good question. Do you think the challenge for funding is the fact to train up the people side, the paramedic side of it? Because you can buy equipment. Is it the people side, do you think?
I think the challenge with rural EMS, if you just take a big step back, is that there aren't that many runs. And that makes the economics hard, because effectively you have the fixed assets and you have personnel that are sometimes waiting for a call. And I think to me, that's the biggest challenge with rural EMS, is that you have in many ways the same costs that you would for a higher volume service. It's just spread over fewer runs. And I think the Sprint Medic model was looking at, is there an opportunity to have the Sprint Medic provide ALS level service in an area that has a lot of BLS providers. And I think the challenge with getting permanent funding for the Sprint Medic is that there's 87 counties in Minnesota, many of which are rural. And I think you'll have numbers say, well, why not us too? And we had a good argument back when we got this original funding passed, where we had a couple of counties that had demonstrated interest in doing this as a pilot to see if this is something that would be sustainable moving forward. But I think the harder thing that people are coming across right now is the people cost of having that trained medic and being able to retain that, because they're in high demand all over the state.
Well, just to follow to that, so how do you square that then with fire protection? I mean, we see huge amounts of investments in these fire departments. A lot of times 6, 8, 10 calls a year, half of them grass fires. Most of the time not affecting life. And I know the essential service piece. Talk about that.
Yeah, so the fire service and EMS services are treated differently in Minnesota. It's a product of state law and state history. Fire service is considered an essential service, where a local unit of government, if that's the city of Elbow Lake or if it's a township, they are obligated to go contract with a fire service to provide fire services for their area. Now, the thing that comes with that is that they have choice. That there are townships that could decide, well, do I want to go with, do I want to go with Ashby for fire service, or I want to go with Elbow Lake? And they could actually, take a look and decide to switch if they wanted, a different service level, or if cost was an issue. If you go to EMS, it's different, where there are PSAs, basically a monopoly area that each EMS provider has, and they have an obligation to serve in that area. And so one of the challenges is if you made EMS an essential service and you basically required local units of government to pay for those services, they wouldn't have the opportunity to switch in the same way they do for the fire service. And so that it creates some complexity for EMS. We have an interesting, case study up in Otter Tail County, and I think we'll have more of these across the state, where you have a provider that is not renewing their license to cover an area. And the Otter Tail County Board is looking at potentially doing a subordinate taxing district for that area to try to entice a provider to come in and take over that license. And actually, the county might end up holding the license. So I think we're going to see more local units of government, whether that's joint power boards or counties, get involved, given this disconnect between the essential service and the obligation to serve.
Thank you.
Just to kind of add on that, since being on the committee in my new role, that's part of the reason we wanted to have a local plan, is we wanted to create a partnership for EMS. So our constituents have received this higher level of care on lots of calls now. We don't want that to go away. We want to build that partnership and have a good plan. So when the pilot project does sunset, we don't have a lapse in that coverage, because we are finding a lot of success stories with the Sprint program, because it allows that higher level of care on the scene to get there so much faster before the ambulance or the rescue rig from a fire department. So we're really trying to make sure that our transition is unnoticeable by the constituents, that we have that good plan. And to your point of counties and other government entities getting involved with the appropriation that, the county board has set aside, the plan outlines a budget for that, where we talk about not just capital assets, but how a partnership, a fee for service could allow us to have that higher level paramedic be able to get to on scene and what that looks like. So we're really excited about our board supporting this and about being able to be a part of the pilot project. We do have an EMS person in the back of the room that's on the committee. I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add to that.
Just so, as we talked, if there does happen to be an extension of the, the funding that we could get, we would still use that, we would still continue our plan as it is majority capital items. And so it would just elongate that process or make those things come a little bit quicker as far as how they're laid out. But the plan just kind of sets out like a 10 to 15 year capital budget for equipment for the most part, along with a piece for service. And if some extra dollars came from the state, that would just be able to push that down so that we would be able to be ready for those costs earlier in the process. So right now we know it takes about 2 years to get a ambulance. So I mean, if you order today, you're not paying for another 2 years out, right? Likely. So it's quite a process. And then if you're not thinking ahead, you can't just get to the day you need one and order it and go pick it up off the lot. It doesn't work that way. So I think the process of getting ahead of it keeps us in a better situation. So.
I got another question. So the people working on this in St. Paul looked at the essential service model and what that actually appears like in 87 counties and the effects and the finances. It feels like we're filling a gap, and then sooner or later it will become an essential service. Can we move that up, or isn't it possible?
Yeah, Commissioner, it's a great question, and it's a debate that comes up at the legislature probably every other session, where it's typically driven by suburban fire services that actually want to become the EMS providers in their area. They're fighting against some of the health systems. Think of Alina or North Memorial that are big EMS providers in the metro. And so that's where you'll have this fight over who gets the opportunity to serve an area. I think one of the trade-offs that we would have to think about is right now the bad thing about PSAs is that it makes it really hard to implement this essential service, because you could have the EMS provider basically bill the township whatever they want, and the township would have no recourse to be able to go and switch to a different ambulance provider. The good thing about PSA is that there's an obligation to serve. And so one of the risks could potentially be, do you have it where you have a low population township that no provider really wants to serve? And I think that would be one of the challenges. You could have a township that says, hey, we need EMS services, but maybe no one responds to their RFP. And so how does the state then deal with that? Right now, for better or worse, for every square inch of Minnesota or the area I represent, someone has the obligation to provide ambulance services in those areas. And so that's the trade-off we're gonna see. And it's also another issue where it's different in the metro than it is in greater Minnesota. The metro, there's basically a fight over the economics. You have the hospitals want to have more PSA, the fire departments want to have more PSA, and they're fighting for it. In rural areas, it's sometimes it's more hot potato where they don't want a certain area that's expensive to serve, and there aren't as many runs. And so something that might work in the metro might not work in greater Minnesota. So that I think has led to kind of this challenge. And I think you're going to see more local units of government and counties even actually taking on the ambulance license. Not saying that they're going to be the ambulance provider, but that they will hold that PSA to ensure that there's continuity of care and that there's EMS services for their constituents.
Well, thank you. Any other questions for the senator? Okay. Guess we'll look for a motion then to approve this.
As a member of the EMS committee, I will make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Bill makes the motion. We have a second.
Second.
Seconded by Troy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Motion carried. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming down.
There, if I could ask you a question. Senator, did you have any more to add to the meeting here, or any tidbits that over and above this EMS stuff that you want to talk about?
Mr. Chair, if you have a few minutes or
Couple minutes, yeah.
okay, I'll be very brief, but I'd say a couple other updates that I would have for the county from the legislative session and stuff of feedback that I got from Grant County. One is that I'm happy to say that there is a significant investment that's going to be made in upgrading the county-based human services technology. I remember being in this room before session, looking at the green screens and the Maxis systems, and there was $90 million that was set aside to work to upgrade those systems, and also a mechanism to bring more dollars those upgrades in the future. So it's not a conversation we're done with, but I'm glad to say that there was some progress made this session on upgrading these core human services technology systems that the counties have to work on. The second item I mentioned is we were also able to pass a capital investment bill this session that made meaningful investments in water infrastructure, the Public Facilities Authority. These are dollars that go to help smaller communities upgrade their wastewater and drinking water systems. Of the 46 cities I represent in Senate District 9, half of them are on the project priority list for needing upgrades to the drinking water and wastewater system, including many communities here in Grant County. So if you have communities in the districts you represent that are looking at water projects, now would be a good time, and we're happy to work with them to help them get funding and be successful there. And then second, we also had another very robust round of funding into the local road improvement program and also into the local bridge program, both of which I know Grant County has had the opportunity to take advantage of. You guys, I think, last year had last year or 2 years ago had a successful LRIP application for a project by Hoffman. And then I think recently this last year, there was a couple of bridge projects that were funded through the local bridge programs here in Grant County. So both of those programs have been replenished this last legislative session. So if there are transportation projects you're looking at, for LRIP or local bridge, I think, now is a good time to look at applying, and I'm happy to, work with you on those projects as well.
Thank you. I know the one bridge got put in this spring and the other ones, they're doing it right now. So,
Great.
yeah. And then we have several bridges that that were in need of, some of our county roads there, so. I think Highway's been applying for that one, so. So we thank you for that too. So, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work.
Hey, could I ask a question of the secretary?
Yes.
We had a work session, you were here for part of it. You got a bobber in the water when it comes to this wind situation?
It's, Mr. Chair and Commissioner, I would say, a lot of counties across the state are having conversations around wind and solar, right? And what that looks like, and I think there's gonna be more projects that are gonna be proposed going forward, and I think it's, really dependent on the area. And even in kind of west central Minnesota, you have some counties like Traverse County to represent, which is, I think, effectively their board has tried to do a lot to stop wind development. Then you've had other counties where they've had very large wind development. And so I think different counties have taken different approaches when it comes to that, but you're gonna see more of those requests, I think, come to your door, given some of the energy calls to Minnesota. But I don't know what the future holds for those.
Okay. Well, thank you, Senator.
Mr. Chair, if I can give Ms. Allenby, you have a town hall meeting in Dalton tonight, and it starts at 6 o'clock. And Rep. Backer and Murphy will be there as well with you.
That's correct.
Touching on some of these projects and platforms and where we're headed and things like that.
Yeah, we'll be having a session, wrap, just updating folks on what happened over the legislative session, and have opportunity for questions and, for both myself and then Representative Jeff Backer, Representative Tom Murphy. So we'll be at the Dalton Community Center at 6 p.m. today.
Yep, if anybody's got free time,
Everyone's welcome.
they'll be able to see me up there.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Okay. So. 9:25, okay, Matt?
Well,
How you doing, man?
good, how are you?
Good.
Good. Couple items here that are relatively easy, I would say. The first item I had was, County Road 34. County Road 34, this is the certificate of final acceptance. We did this project here last year. This was the Myron Park project. They had some work that carried over this year that get grass established to clean up some things. They completed all that work. Like there's a little over $8,700 left on the contract that we still need to pay them now that they've completed this work. So this is just, the board resolving to say that the project is complete and it's accepted, and we'll close out the contract.
Okay, do we need a motion on that?
So move.
Doyle makes the motion. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Troy. Any further discussion on County Road 34? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Okay.
DNR grant, Matt?
Yeah, the second item I have is the all-terrain vehicle park funding, which we apply yearly for the DNR grant and aid trail money. This resolution would authorize me to apply for those funding and a contract for the maintenance and facilities at the park. Generally, it comes to about $4,000 a year that we get reimbursed for. It's primarily for the ADA basketball facilities that we have out there, and also mowing the park a couple times a year. So we just be looking for you guys to approve this resolution, so apply for this grant money.
Okay. Well, Troy? Troy made the motion. Second seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. One question where Matt, when I spoke on bridge bonding, County Road 4 there,
Wrong bridges.
what's that?
Wrong bridges.
The money they appropriated, I got a call here last week from MnDOT that are two bridges on County Road 35. They were on the bridge waiting list for funding,
Okay.
and those officially are getting funded. So we'll be constructing those next year.
The stuff, the bridges on 4 though, we're all set to apply for bonding there, aren't we?
We will be, once we finish up the right of way acquisition.
Okay,
Otherwise, we did get the permits. I think are all complete now, so right away is the only thing we're waiting on.
Yeah.
Then those will get sent in, and I talked to the state, and hopefully if we can get them in, then everything finished up by the beginning of the summer. There still might be some funding left over in there that we could maybe gobble up into another project next year, so that's kind of our goal right now, is to get that done. Okay.
Where's 35?
35 is kind of right between 27 and 14. Probably 27, that little mile jog cuts across on 27. Okay, those are those roads.
okay. Thank you, Matt.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Grant County Auditor, ditch 3 and 21 special assessment interest rate. Is Chad on there?
Yes, yes. Yep. Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
What,
I-
what do you got for it?
You just need, I got a request from Jamie at Boise Sioux. You guys, the ditch 3 and 21 projects apparently are wrapping up. And, you would need to, we'll be having special assessments put on for those properties to repay that bond that the county did last year. And so what you need to do as the county board is to set the interest rate on the special assessments for repayment.
Okay. So is there any type of how do we know where to set that? Is there a guideline or?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
Chad, do you know offhand what is the rate we're paying on the bond?
I believe it should be in your packet. I think I included that.
4.11.
4.11. 4.1.
We can, correct me if I'm wrong, Chad, but we can set it lower, we can set it higher, we can set it exactly the same.
You can do whatever you choose to do.
Say, Chad, is there any precedence of what we in the past have done?
Historically, the county board has set it at the rate in which the bond was sold at. So the same interest rate is what you're paying on the bond.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to set the interest rate the same as what is being paid on the bond.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, Tina, Grant County Coordinator. You might as well stick with the timeline here.
All
Yeah.
right, just don't want to forget about the additions, so.
No.
Okay, in the packet was the quote to renew our VM platform maintenance license with more, through Morris Electronics. For our backup systems, and this is just an annual thing. The quote was included in the packet, it's $1,980.66.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
You have a motion by Bill, we have a second.
Second.
Second by Troy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
The other two items were just updates for the board. Included was the letter for the projects in Grant County under the Lessard Sands Outdoor Heritage Council funds. So that was included in the packet, so you can see what projects are happening in Grant County. And then also included were the letters from the Department of Administration, letting us know that Emmanuel Lutheran Church and the Bear Pavilion are now listed on the National Register of Historic Places.
Okay. Okay, Sheriff, we'll put you in there now.
Morning. We're here today to talk about the Barrett radio tower. When we were doing our monthly civil test last week, we found out that the Barrett tornado siren was not going on. And so we activated at Motorola, and it was found that at the tower site, our UPS was not working. This was something that was going to be updated in 2027 with our other tower projects. But because it's not working now, we probably should do something. So I did go to the public safety board and we talked about this. And they agreed that we should probably just go ahead with it. So DSC Motorola did give us a quote to replace the mechanics for the UPS at the tower site, which was $9,455. And I believe that should be in your packet as well. So right now we just have it, it's like a strip that they put in, so it works. But it's not the greatest, not a good price yet.
The UPS, I think he said that we replace them like every year, but this new way that everyone's changing their towers to is more like a car battery, it's kind of how he explained it, and they last like 10 to 15 years. So this is by far gonna be a better option and more
In the long run.
in the long run. It's just more cost right now.
Well, what the plan was to go to next year or the year after anyway, it's just, we had to be expedited because that one failed. So we don't wanna replace it with a new UPS only to tear it out in a year and replace it.
Makes sense.
They bypassed to make it work for now because the parts aren't available current.
It's true.
The parts aren't on hand. I shouldn't say they're not available, they're not on hand.
It makes sense, and it can come out of the 911 fund.
Yes, and this too would come out of that one.
So you just one up on what we gotta do next year, so.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, I got a question.
Yeah.
So who maintains this? Is it Grant County?
Yes, so the
Okay.
tower site is Grant County, where the siren is, it's at the city level.
Okay,
But the city siren will not go off if the UPS is down.
right?
Okay. Well, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So
Second.
Troy and Bill. Troy makes the motion, Bill second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Tina, let's do the BSO then. BSO.
Good morning. All right, so, the personnel committee, after we interviewed the personnel committee, met a couple different times. And then also met with, Maya, and we have come up with, an agreement for him to take on the PSL role. It would be $1,250 per pay period, stipend, kind of like we would do for, facility maintenance. Same aspect, that would be for the BSL, taking on the BSL role. We talked about, kind of evaluating it now until December, kind of tracking the BSL hours to see, compare, what is being worked, how many hours in BSL, just so we have a better tracking device or tracking on those hours, and then reevaluating, the compensation and all of that come December. And then also the steps or how the compensation would work. So we also are examining, the facilities, as far as how facilities are running, and we're gonna keep tracking that as well. And then the other question we were gonna bring up is the budget. I don't know, wanna explain that a little bit more, how. Do you wanna talk about that?
We can, just so the board, it's a question that doesn't have to be answered today. But does the board, as we proceed into budgeting, does the board wanna set this as though we have a 32-hour employee in that position? Because if this doesn't work and we don't fund it that way, then you have a potential a known shortfall next year if we have to change directions.
And hire somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not a question that needs to be answered today. It's something to think about as we get into the preliminary budgeting. One of the things the budget committee has talked about is a capital improvement fund. If we budget it for a 32-hour employee and we don't need to change directions, we can move that money into that capital improvement fund. So I mean, it's not like it would just, it's never gonna go to waste, but there's a use for it or a need for it elsewhere.
Maybe. So we have to set the final in December, first week in December.
Correct.
And if we're analyzing the work of the personnel department in December, that should really give us some pretty clear direction. So from a preliminary standpoint, I would say put it in at the 32 hours with the idea that if it's looking like it's really working, that at final, it could be changed.
It could be
If we
changed.
need to, or, yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, and yes, it does, and it can be changed before the final, or we're planning in 2 weeks to come back, the budget committee, with an amendment to the budget, because there's a few things that were budgeted for that we didn't know an answer to when the final was set. So we're gonna approve an amended budget with that money allocated somewhere else. So, even if we decide we're gonna wait a year, we do it a year from now, we can allocate that money elsewhere at that time by amending the budget.
I got something I'd like to add, but, it would be nice, you get a couple months into this position, it would be nice to get a board report from, our VSO person, so then he's, servicing the people that are in and out of there and things like that, so then we can get some feedback. So then, it'll be a way easier decision in December. Oh, that's all gonna end.
One other thing we didn't have on there is my opinion, I don't think we ever set it in stone, is we kind of let the new VSO decide office space, which works best. If we get to the end of the year and we've made that choice, maybe we can bring extension up to the courthouse. But we're not gonna dictate, because my personal opinion is it would probably be best to stay in the current one. It gives a little more privacy to the veteran.
Yeah.
But I think it's his choice as far as where he wants to set up.
Where the current VSO is.
Where the current VSO office is.
Okay.
Keep it all intact, and then, so we make sure that it works. So then, I mean, if we have to get somebody else in those roles, then there's a separate office.
Okay, we're looking for a motion then.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Minnesota DNR. How you guys doing today?
It's pretty.
Not too bad, the south side.
Good. Only 3 minutes is pretty proficient, doesn't it?
Well, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Ben Berge. I'm the Regional Director for Minnesota DNR, based out of Bemidji. And before I get started, I just want to take a moment and have the staff that I work with introduce themselves. We have some folks from local offices in the area, and then also some folks from our regional headquarters in Bemidji. And so, Alex, why don't you get started?
Yeah, Alex Leppin, I work in Glenwood. I'm the fisheries supervisor, we cover Grant County out of that office.
Morning, my name is Nathan Kestner. I'm the Northwest Regional Manager with the Division of Ecological and Water Resources. Happy to be here.
Morning, Nicholas Snavely, Area Wildlife Supervisor based out of Fergus Falls. I also cover Grant County.
Jason Strady out of the Glenwood office for wildlife.
Good morning, I'm Carrie Ross. I serve as the regional planner for the entire Northwest region out of.
Thank you all. Yeah, again, my name is Ben, Regional Director out of Bemidji. Part of my job is to make sure we're interacting and working closely with all of our local units of government, counties, municipalities, and tribes here in the Northwest. It's a part I greatly appreciate about this job, and so we like to make rounds and visit with all of you and be here to be able to answer questions and talk about what's happening in the agency. I think before I get started, I'm gonna read the mission of the agency. I had to reread it myself this morning, but I'll just read it to remind us of what DNR our mission is. The mission of the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources is to work with Minnesotans to conserve and manage the state's natural resources, to provide outdoor recreation opportunities, and to provide for commercial uses of natural resources in a way that creates sustainable quality of life. I think one of the key phrases in that is work with Minnesotans, and that's part of what I bring to this job. I've been the regional director for not quite 2 years now. But really the value that I see that I can bring to this and why I want to come meet with you and your counterparts in other counties. And I'm proud of the team that I work with is really about serving Minnesotans and work with Minnesotans. And I often like to refer to DNR as your DNR. We're here to provide, and I always get some smiles. I appreciate that because I know that's not how we're always viewed. We can't always say yes, but we come to the table to listen and try to find outcomes that work locally, not come to the table and try to tell communities how to do things. And that's the philosophy I bring to the table. I'm very proud of the group that's here today. It's a philosophy that I know that those here with me today share. We have 7 divisions in the agency. Not all 7 divisions are represented here. And I'm sure you'll have some questions for us, and these folks will be able to help answer all those questions. But just as a reminder, the divisions we have are Parks and Trails. You were talking earlier about your grant for your ATV park. That comes through the Parks and Trails division. EWR, Nathan's here from EWR. Works on some of our state natural areas, which I believe you have 1 scientific and natural area here, water permitting, and some of our permitting regulatory side of the agency. Fish and Wildlife, we have folks here from Fish and Wildlife, pretty self-explanatory. Forestry Division, Lands and Minerals Division that deals with our real estate, OSD, which is sort of like our internal services, the workings of the agency, and then our Enforcement Division, which are our conservation officers that you're probably familiar with. All in all, here in the county, we have just shy, I should say, of 4,000 acres, about 3,700 acres of land that are managed by DNR, are roughly 1% of your county land base. That's made up of different lands. We have 23 wildlife management areas here in Grant County. We have 3 fish management areas, a scientific and natural area, which I mentioned, 5 water accesses, and then some snowmobile, and as you already know, your Grant 8 on the OHV site at your all-terrain park. In terms of taxes and payment in lieu of taxes, PILT, which you're probably very familiar with, it was a very popular topic of conversation a few years ago. The DNR pays just over 127,000, so 127,552 to the county in payment in lieu of taxes for those lands that we do manage. I'm not gonna read through this. Hopefully you all have a copy of this in your file, but just generally I'll hit some of the highlights. The first piece you can see is, first several are working on water issues. So working with the watersheds, I heard you mention Boy Sue already, in earlier conversations. So working with folks in the watersheds, related to water issues, that obviously affect locals. There's some access pieces here, in natural resource management, looks like Lower Elk and Lightning Lakes, restoring some of them after winter kills in those water bodies, fishing pier work. One of the things you'll see in there is also there was some Get Out More money that came to this county. Get Out More was a couple sessions ago, and Get Out More stands for Modernize Outdoor Recreation Experiences. It was a once in a generation investment into outdoor recreation and conservation efforts. And so we did our very best to try to get that money spread across counties into meaningful projects that would make a difference in the life of Minnesotans. And also obviously helping with our natural resource management. And so you see a project there as well. Good news on, and maybe Nick or Jason were hit on this, zero CWD positive samples so far in the Deer Permit Area 270 in this area. Some work on our WMAs to ensure and sustain natural resource management through the use of prescribed fire. And then you'll see some other things here related to access at some of our WMAs to improve roads and parking areas. And that's where it really comes to You know, oftentimes people see us as a natural resource agency. I like to think of us as a people agency. We really are about, that connection between people and the outdoors, right? And so that means not only are we conserving and ensuring those resources are there in a sustainable way for tomorrow, making sure people can integrate and interact with them. We do have 6 full-time staff based in Grant County, and obviously we have folks from some of our other offices here today, as you mentioned. Opportunities, things we continue to work on is the pelican and walleye balance, or I should say the cormorant and walleye on Pelican Lake, excuse me. And then also some future work in the Lake Christina area related to water plan there and improving wildlife habitat. We're here today, again, I'm here not to replace your local interactions. Our staff, especially the folks that work in the surrounding offices, are, work closely with folks from the county, and I'm not here to replace that. That's what those folks do best, and they work well and know your local issues. I just am here as part of our management team to ensure that we're here as an agency to be a resource and a phone call away should you need, have a question or whatnot. Oftentimes I like to say we partner at times, but there's other times we wear other hats. So we often talk about DNR. There's times we wear partnership hats. There's times we wear regulatory hats, depending on, the project and the day. And so we appreciate you understanding that as well. But regardless, we come to listen and be hopefully a friendly face and someone at the table and navigating and negotiating, the challenges that come to us each and every day. So with that, I will stop. And if you have any questions, either I know that someone from the team here will be able to answer, hopefully. And if not, we'll get back to you if there's something we can. And again, just really appreciate the time, Mr. Chair and Commissioners.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Was it your department's brainchild to hand the shotgun and rifle issue back to the counties?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, no, it was not.
Whose was it?
I sent you the name. Got the name of
That's something.
Yeah, that was not us. So I'll leave that there.
You guys don't play the blame game. You know what I mean?
No,
No.
no.
I have a question, Mr. Chair. So it said zone 270, which is actually just a small part of Grant County, had no chronic
Yeah.
wasting disease. What about 272 and 273?
272 and 273 did not have CWD surveillance conducted in it. That's why they weren't listed.
So then my follow-up question that I've been getting is why are we now added to the feeding ban for deer?
Yeah, that's a countywide ban. So it's based off of the boundaries of where positives have shown up. You're probably aware to the west, Traverse County, 671, used to be 271, deer permit 271. It's now relabeled 671 because it did have a positive deer show up a couple years ago, and we had another positive last year. So we've had 2 adult males show up during the fire and deer season, positive 2 years in a row in that deer permit area. And
Is that why I see 671 has the slashes in it now? I was looking at a map.
When you say the slash, what are you referring to? I'm sorry.
So it's got, it's got slashes running through it, so it's highlighted, marked.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And looking forward to this upcoming fire and deer season. The DNR is moving back to a model that we did about 20 years ago to start doing surveillance on chronic wasting disease presence or absence across the state as we do surveillance on a quarterly, roughly basis around the state. So this year we were focusing on the south west part of the state, which will encompass this area. The next year we'll be moving up to the northwest part of the state, which will exclude this area, and then the northeast, and then down to the south.
So there will be more testing site, drop off testing sites.
There will be testing sites across this area this fall, or the opening of the fire and deer season weekend. That Saturday, Sunday will be required for sampling, and then the rest of the season will not be required. So
you say required, so to me, it's all changed with the electronic registration, so I don't have to take that deer somewhere anymore. But if I harvest one that Friday, Saturday, I'm gonna be required to bring that in for sampling.
if you harvest the deer on Saturday or Sunday, the opening of the fire and deer season, yeah, you'll be required to not only register it, that's always been a requirement, but you'll be required to also do the surveillance portion, get a sample taken. If it is, a yearling or older deer, bonds are not included in that, process. So we're looking at a disease that's chronic in nature. So that's the reason we're looking at older deer in the population. And so, yeah.
Do we still do the kits? Can people order the kits?
Yeah, we do have, mail-in kits. You can go to a local DNR office or go online and request. Hunter, can take their own samples. We have good videos on our webpage, as well as the kits have good instructions on how to go ahead and find the retropharyngeal lymph nodes in the neck where they would need to extract those and send those in, per the kit instructions. And that is an option. And we also work with cooperative taxidermists that might be cooperative with DNR, and they can also take samples on behalf of the hunter and have those sent in as well. That is how we actually found the first sample a couple years ago in 671, is that hunter had actually submitted that sample to be taken by a taxidermist, a cooperative taxidermist, and had it sent in, and that's how we found out about that deer.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I got a couple of questions. So what's the reasoning for shrinking the pool of people that are, getting licensed? These outlets that you get, trying to buy out hunting or fishing or anything like that. We ended up with two of them in the town here at one point, and now you guys have changed it up. Where, it takes printers and all that stuff, so it takes like a $10,000 investment just to be able to sell licenses again. What was the reasoning to change all that up? Do you guys know anything about that?
So, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I can speak a little of that. We may have to get some more info. So we actually just changed, in the last month, went to a completely electronic licensing system. And so printing on the paper like you're used to, that, I don't know if it's Mylar or whatever that is actually now not happening. Licenses now are printed on an 8.9 by 11 piece of paper, so it's a standard printer. But if you look, a lot of the wave is using technology and trying to make it simpler for people. So one, to be able to print on a normal piece of paper. And then two is to be able to have a representation of your license electronically or mobilely. That includes registration of deer now actually as well. Even if you're out of service, actually, you can go on and do some things in that app. And so there has been, the license modernization process that we've been going on for a while was launched in June this past month.
Yeah.
And so trying to simplify things. I get, I can think back to when I was a kid, everyone gathered around, right? The places where we go buy licenses, register animals. And I'm with you, and I miss some of that, but I think, as we know that today's customer and moving forward, we're trying to find a balance where people of all ages and however they want to interact with us do have a way to acquire licenses, make sure they comply with registrations. And so we are trying to simplify that, obviously, and make it as user friendly as possible.
Right, and again, technology is taking us this direction, but like a lot of people used to put, the blue stickers on the outside of their fish houses and, you know what I mean, and have them in pocket and say a phone dies, you know what I mean, and you get, conservation officer pulls you over and you can say, well, my phone's dead, I can't prove it on my phone. How does that all work? Can he look it up and you know what I mean, and see that?
I mean, there's discretion. I can't say how that works in every case, but obviously discretion if a phone dies and getting that repowered to ensure there's a license, but absolutely the direction and foundation behind what we're doing is trying to be better customer focused, obviously, so.
Well, it's more of a disruption for something.
Yeah,
because
and I'm not sure anyone on the fish house, those I don't know about the fish house tags, but motorized recreation, so snowmobiles, ATVs, those still have the sticky things that go on. I'm not sure on the fish house because I only own portables. Anybody know how those are gonna continue to be printed?
Well, right now, the first stage of the updates to the electronic license sales system to this mobile system that we moved into, that was implemented with the hunting and fishing licenses. The boat registrations, motor registrations, that's occurring later in the year, still to come out at a later stage. So we want to make sure that this first part was working effectively and we were tweaking things to make sure that customers were being served appropriately based on how the launch of that went. So.
Okay, one other question, Mr. Chair. If there's anybody in the room can help us out with raising the non-resident deer big game licenses to the same as North Dakota and South Dakota, what they charge us. So not a deterrent, it just play fair.
Sure, Mr. Chair, if I may. So I've been part of a team I have so many teams, I can't even say the name of it, my memory's short, but our, for the outdoors group. Was looking at, and it continues to look at funding options and funding models for funding outdoor recreation and conservation. And so I've been part of that group on a statewide level. We've had numerous listening sessions a few summers back to hear from constituents. And I can tell you that the idea of increasing some fees related to non-residents, whether it's hunting, angling, state park access, not to a point where it's deterring people,
Right.
but is offsetting some of, obviously, the fact that taxes aren't being paid here, et cetera. There's a benefit there, and just ensuring access and opportunity for Minnesotans as well at the same time. And so we have heard general support for that. And while obviously any of those sort of fee changes go through legislatively, those conversations I know are out there, and I do hear more conversation around that and support from a lot of our constituent groups to do that. And so that's not just something that, an idea you share, I am hearing more of that in the different groups that I'm part of.
Well, it takes them up to 6 years to probably draw a buck tag, a rifle tag in North Dakota.
Yeah.
Do you know what they're gonna do? They're all gonna come in this direction, especially the border
Border county.
counties and things like that over there, they're coming this direction.
Yeah.
Then they have been with muzzleloaders.
Sure. Yeah.
So we gotta have a kind of a system of fairness.
Yeah.
If we're wanna hunt that, we can buy a bow tag out there.
Yeah.
As a buck tag, but if you wanna hunt Medora or anything like that, it's $300
Yeah.
for a license. Well, how about, let's play fair here.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all want money. We all want staffing.
Right.
Right?
Right on. No,
We're built on economics.
Right, right on.
Okay, I have a couple questions.
Sure, Mr. Chair.
I represent Pelican Lake Township.
Sure.
Pelican Lake, Christina. The cormorant issue's always been a big issue. Remember, like 4 or 5 years ago where we had that public hearing.
Yeah.
And
I was not involved, but I'm aware.
yeah, there seemed like there was some support there to thin them out a little bit, but then all of a sudden it just got shut down. I can only imagine probably what happened there, but anyway, it did get shut down. But how do you monitor cormorant walleye interactions on Pelican
Yeah.
Lake? Is it netting? Is that what it is?
I can speak to this a little bit. We did increase all of our monitoring efforts, and Nathan maybe has more of the details on the actual cormorant monitoring since his division handles that. But for the fishery side, we're out there every year. In fact, we just netted the lake 2 weeks ago. We were out there. So we're going out there netting it on an annual basis, whereas previously we were only doing that once every 4 years. So that's helping us just kind of keep a tab on what's going on out there. We're also aging almost all of the fish that we're sampling, so we can actually track individual year classes of walleye over time. And then on the cormorant side, they've actually started doing these annual drone surveys every year. They do them about 2 weeks after cormorants start arriving, so they already did it this year. And that's something that, again, is an annual thing that's now going on. Neither of these commitments have an end date, to my understanding. So we are definitely committed to tracking it, in regards to you saying it got shut down, like I can understand how it might feel like that, but the reality is we started monitoring them more intensively, and the walleye population at the time that we had that public hearing was pretty depressed, but we actually had 3 very strong year classes that got pulled off right after one another, 22, 23, and 24. And so our monitoring, we've actually been seeing walleye numbers going up and up. And so we have this plan in place now where we have certain thresholds that we're looking at for when control of cormorants might be considered. But since that public hearing, we haven't even been close to hitting any of those thresholds because the numbers just keep going up. Last year, we had a record high gill net catch rate, actually. And then this year, like I said, we were just out there 2 weeks ago, and it did go down a little bit, but it was still over 12 per net, which is on the higher end of things for Pelican Lake. So currently the walleye population is just looking pretty good. So I guess that's kind of where we're at right now, but it didn't get shut down. We have this whole plan in place, and we have all these thresholds that are now in place, but the reality is things have been looking good the last few years, so we haven't been close to hitting any of them.
Okay, well, I thank you for that because I get asked that all the time. My next question then is on Lake Christina. Lake Christina is a pretty dear to my heart because I'm a duck hunter, and how is the water doing out there? Does anybody know? Are we doing okay out there?
He's got to be better suited for that.
Yeah, I can speak to that briefly. I'm not the one that does the annual surveys out there. Nick Brown, our special specialist is, and some of the surveys they've been doing out there, I think we're conducting water samples roughly around 3 to 4 times a year out there. And the trend more recently has been downward to the point where there might need to be some management action taken, similar to what you've probably seen in the past for Lake Christina. You know, that could be a managed drawdown, or action similar to that, like we've had, and the reason we have that water control structure pump system on the elbow of that lake is to provide that as an option. If the thresholds are passed, similar to what you just mentioned, thresholds for aquatic vegetation, water quality, those are all things that are being looked at. In my last conversation with Nick Brown, was that they were strongly considering some management actions in the near future. And that would be communicated. We have annual meetings with the landowners and the stakeholders around that lake. Nick Brown holds that meeting typically in the wintertime and gives updates on, you know, where things are trending one way or the other. And the trends seem to be trending in that direction where the water quality is diminishing to a level where the threshold point might be reached in the near future. Last year, looking at the aquatic vegetation, specifically the submerged vegetation below the water line, it was still doing quite well, even though the water quality was showing a different trend of decreasing in a direction that was not favorable. Now that we're moved into another year later, I think we're trending in that direction where that action might have to happen in the near future.
The lake management plan's getting redone too, isn't it?
Yeah, so the lake management plan is being looked at as well for being redone. And so we're taking into consideration past use and thresholds that were used and updating to see if those are still appropriate or if they need to be tweaked in a fashion that is more appropriate for the things that we've learned on that lake. Well, as you probably are aware, Lake Christina has some of the longest history for water quality information on it compared to a lot of other lakes in the state. So that's really helpful to help guide those triggers moving forward as they relook at that management plan. I don't know if there's anything else you want to mention.
No, I think that covers it pretty good. Yeah, the water quality definitely has gone down the last couple of years, so.
Okay, I got a question. For the fishery guy. So there was talk about lowering the walleye limit to 3 or 4. And I guess the question I have, I live on Elk Lake and I witnessed this a couple falls ago when the fishing was really good. And I go for walks around the lake and I saw these professional guides. There's 4, 5, 6 boats out there every day and you watch them clean 18 walleyes on your end gate, keeping a limit themselves and 2 guys and they think, I mean, it was on and on and on, and 6 fish. And you lay them 6, 18-inch walleyes out, it's a lot of fish. Is there any reason to have 3 on a northern and 6 on a walleye?
Well, the limit is 10 on northern now.
Oh, 10, okay.
Yeah.
There used to be 3, didn't it?
Yeah, but you know, now they have these zone regulations, and so you can keep up to 10, granted, 8 of those 10 have to be under 22 inches, so,
And same with the winter lake, I mean.
yeah, that was very popular.
Sorry, what was that last? $8 every day, I mean, the pressure, what's your thought on that?
Well, I mean, you're asking, I kind of think, are you getting at, like, is the limit gonna be lowered
Yes,
statewide?
yes.
So, yeah, as you know, you mentioned it, they're looking at a statewide 4 walleye bag limit. Nothing is set in stone yet. What I can say is that the DNR is supporting the change. They went out for public comment earlier this year, and there's if you hit a certain threshold of public comments that request a hearing with an administrative law judge, I believe it's 50, then it triggers this additional step where you have to bring the matter up in front of an administrative law judge. So that happened. I think they got roughly 80 or so comments requesting that. So that it put another stop along the way that they essentially have to do now. So later this year, they think the date hasn't been set, but essentially, notifications went out to the people that submitted comments requesting this hearing. It's essentially up to them to come or find people to come represent their side of the argument, essentially that the limit shouldn't be reduced. I think for an issue like this, they're probably gonna be pretty well organized and are gonna have, some well organized folks there coming to speak to their side. The DNR is gonna come and speak to their side about why we think the limit should be reduced. And like I said,
what I've been told is they think that that might happen in like October, and as long as it can happen by the end of the year. If the judge sides with reducing the limit, that it will probably go into effect next year, 2027. If we can't get that done by the end of the year, it's probably gonna push it back like another year, or ultimately the administrative law judge could decide that we don't reduce the limit, so. It's kind of it's a little bit of an unknown right now, I'll say, at least on the fisheries side of things, these hearings don't happen very often. The last time that this actually happened was when they wanted to reduce the perch limit, which was quite a while ago. No one in fisheries leadership, I think, was even really involved in that one, so. It's kind of a weird one. There's no cross-examination apparently, like the DNR just says their side, the other side, states their case. And that's it. There's no questioning back and forth, and then the judge renders a decision afterwards, so. And we don't know exactly how it's gonna go. I will say the public comment was more overwhelmingly in support of reducing the limit, so. Generally speaking, there is public support for the reduction, but. I guess that's all I can say right now, is that's kind of what we're waiting on, is we gotta go.
DNR
supports
The way it was, we brought it forward.
Yeah, the
That was the
DNR is the
DNR
one that
initiative
proposed it,
was
so yes, exactly. The DNR is pushing for
We're
the
driving
limits to get reduced, but we have to go through this another step now before. And again, the end result, it really comes down to what the administrative law judge decides, so we don't really have a crystal ball on how that's gonna play out.
Part of it obviously is trying to find a balance, right? We want people to be able to go catch fish and have a meal. But we're trying to, when you think about 6 fish, as you say, is that really what that is?
My comment was that when you're using a live scope, your possession should be 0.
Well.
And there's a lot of very polarized opinions.
Yeah, another polarizing topic.
But yes, it's technology was part of the reason they're looking at the reduction, it's a proactive step. We don't actually feel like we're in a crisis right now or anything like that, but we're trying to avoid reaching that point where we are in a crisis and having to react to it all of a sudden. So it's a very proactive step, but that's where we're at right now. The DNR is trying to make it happen, but ultimately we do need to go through some additional steps.
Good, thank you.
Well, yeah, I got one more question, Mr. Chair. So are you part of this fisheries that is planting, fried fingerlings in the area lakes around the town here?
Yeah, you mean around, like around Fjord?
Yep. And we ended up fishing the West Lake. And we were told to get them out of there as many as we possibly could. I'm saying we didn't go over the limit. Okay, I'm being honest here.
The limits still apply.
Right. But anyway, you guys want these basins fished out so you can get rid of,
the larger fish. Yeah, we specifically try to use ponds that winter kill, because if we have older walleye in there, it impacts our ability to raise fingerlings. So now we've gone 3 winters in a row now without winter kill in most of our ponds, so. It gets tougher and tougher every year. I mean, we don't expect these ponds to winter kill every year, but the more frequently they do, the better. So definitely, if you're out there catching harvestable size walleyes, get them out of there. The more out of there, the better for us. It is getting harder and harder though, as I stated. And that's part of the reason, I think after the last winter kill, we were only using, we call it lower worm. I don't know where the name came from, lower Fleckefjord, the one at the airport. We've been using that one for a long time, but now we've had after year of no winter kill, we're trying to find new waters, which is now why, we worked with the city of Elbow Lake to actually get access into, upper, middle, lower, and lower Fleckefjord. And some of them are producing some better than others, but definitely what you said is true. Feel free to keep fish out of there.
Yeah, the North Lake sounds like there's a bunch of crappies in there too. I was told to.
Yeah, those didn't come from us, but
how did they get there? Can you answer that? Somebody put them in there, you think?
That happens, we call it bucket biologists who kind of move fish around. But also, a lot of times, a lot of these waters get connected when water levels are high. You'd be shocked at how little water some fish actually need to move through, so. A lot of times water levels get high, they can get through the cattails and things like that and actually move in between water bodies. Even pike do that all the time, a lake completely winter kills and you wouldn't even think there's a way for fish to get in there, but the next summer there's pike in there.
it happens. There's a lot of water, a lot of low areas, and they do move around anytime you get higher water, so. I don't know, but it is possible people put crappies in there. I wouldn't put it past
The
them.
North Lake, I'm told, has got a bunch in, so we were gonna try it actually, just to see. You know,
Yeah, that one hasn't been very productive for us
No.
from a fingerling
No,
production standpoint, so.
the 800, 600 to 800 pounds per basin that you guys pulled out there, you know, they were that, whatever it was, 14 to 16 inch
Yeah,
class.
the adults, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, that's what we harvested out of there. You
Yeah, the
know,
last few years, we've actually had to stock a lot of lakes with adult walleyes, you know, that we normally stock with fingerlings. And we do increase the number of pounds when we do that, because it's fewer fish, you know, when they're adults, so.
Right.
But we've had to resort to that lately, unfortunately, just because, like I said, now we're going 3 years now without winter kill in most of our ponds. It definitely impacts our ability to produce fingerlings.
When we get drainage, lake drainage and things like that, hydraulic recharge, you know, they're all connected, so you're gonna get fresh water going through there underneath the ice. So if we don't get a big snow cover, they ain't nothing dying in there.
Yeah, and it's been hard to get that the last few years. This winter was looking good at the beginning, but then, it kind of fizzled out in terms of the severe winter conditions.
Okay.
So.
Okay, well, if there's no
Thank
other
you.
questions, we sure appreciate you guys coming.
Thank you so much.
You helped me out with a farm run question there. Cause a lot of people think it did get shut down, but it makes sense.
And I can see how it might feel like that.
Oh, yeah.
But we've been sending annual updates to the Lake Association just to kind of show them like what we see, what our surveys are showing year to year and how they compare to those thresholds that I talked about and.
Okay, well, thanks for coming again.
Chairman, commissioners, thank you so much for this.
Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Reed.
Real well.
Good. That was informative. Yeah.
Alright, so, I'm gonna talk quick about the planning and zoning administrative ordinance. So about 8 months ago or so, we started a conversation at the Board of Adjustment and PAC, the planning commission on. Hey, we have some bylaws that are pretty dated, that kind of just been being rolled over year to year to year. So I reached out to some other counties and got some updated ones, and then Otter said, hey, we just got rid of having to do bylaws all the time and went to like an admin ordinance. So make life a lot simpler, so you don't have to do the bylaws all the time. So that was a route that I explored with the folks, and they said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, so we did that. And then about a month ago, we held a public hearing on the ordinance. We had a couple folks from public come, they were all just making sure there was no changes to the shoreline side of stuff, and this ordinance doesn't impact shoreline. At shoreline regulation wise, it just impacts, how the board adjustment and planning advisory commission, and then Ruben and I interact with them. So how many people are on these boards, how long you serve, how public meetings go, that kind of thing, so. So, they held a vote at the planning commission meeting, and they recommended to send an ordinance to you guys for approval. And so that's what you guys have before you. Justin reviewed it, he didn't have any issues or any comments, he said it looked fine, so. It's pretty straightforward ordinance, pretty short and sweet.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion on that ordinance.
So,
Troy makes a motion, we have a second.
second,
Second by Doyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Reed.
Thanks for waiting, Reed.
Committee update. Okay, committee updates, budget and finance committee, Troy and Bill.
so brought up briefly, we're talking about, do we wanna have capital expenditures funded in the preliminary budget? So, I mean, we obviously don't need that answer today, because if we did, it would be an agenda item, but does the board want to have a specific line item? Do we want to maybe work it in, like we talked about earlier, where it's there if it's needed for somewhere else, and then it's, the budget's amended? I mean, that's a question that doesn't need to be answered today, because we're not gonna take motion at this point, but
Troy, I
So-
think that overall, yes, but then I remember we had a conversation about if departments have specific things, should departments start budgeting for capital expenditures or future repairs they know they have coming?
well, right, and it's not necessarily even a department, so your buildings are one department, but within that, you know, if we know that the courthouse needs windows, does the courthouse need to start budgeting separately than buildings overall, because you know that's an upcoming expense for that particular one, right? We're already 7, 8 years in this building. At some point, we're gonna need a roof because it's a flat roof. So do you start budgeting this far out for that, or do you wait and budget larger amounts? I mean, those are all questions that are potentially need to be answered in the building committee. And then the budget committee puts in the amount, right? But does the board wanna budget it, or do we wait until the building, let's use this building, do we wait another 15 years and we need a roof? And then bond to fix it? So do you wanna collect interest or you wanna pay interest?
So question, I can't, I've got a mental block here, the plan, the 5-year something plan that was done years ago that's expired, help me, go ahead, Luke.
5-year capital improvement. plan.
Yeah, into your question. Does the county need to do one of them, or have we updated enough where it's probably not needed, that would maybe help address that question, or not? It costs money, I know.
Well, it costs money to do one, and my thought is, let's identify
The
our
issue,
next big expense and plan on that and hope nothing comes before then.
So
But if it does, I mean, do you wanna put the time and money into doing a capital improvement plan? And my understanding is that is one of the requirements for this board to just vote in bond, and that's why we haven't really done one. Is to this board's hasn't moved, recently has not moved forward with bonding for a building. That was a requirement for that.
So back to your question, I think you should. There should be analytics, let's just use this building we're in. It's like depreciation, I mean, it's a non-cash expense, the business depreciates things for a reason, and I think we should plan on it. But I also think that the departments then should account for it. In there somewhere, now how you do that, like you say, a courthouse is multiple departments, but I do think planning for it a little bit at a time is good financial due diligence.
We talked about doing individual buildings, you know, we also talked about at Western Prairie about going to the indirect, where we're not gonna bill them for it. If on this building, we wouldn't bill them for it until after we would recoup it, the indirect, because if we're trying to do it and build a fund and we're getting their federal credit, it limits it. We would not be able to use that money in the courthouse. So there is an advantage to having just one. Cause then you're not, and obviously we could change direction, but it's not tying you to one specific building.
no, correct. That's kind of where I'm at. You gotta do an inventory. We gotta see what's going on. Well, the courthouse, you know, there could be issues, you know, moving forward, which I'm sure there has been over the years, but that's probably one of the oldest, you know, infrastructure issues that we could possibly have. This probably hang in there for a few years, and highway will too. You know, when the sheriff was new up there, but you know, the courthouse is gonna have to be addressed, and we gotta have an inventory of what we should be doing there or looking at it and bring it into focus.
Cause there's windows in the courthouse that
Yeah.
are old, there's, you know, your heat pumps are now, what are they, 15, 16 years old?
Yep.
So,
Yeah, that remodel was 2010,
so yeah, you're 16 years
Yep.
on the heat pumps, and
and the windows were before that.
I think the school had to replace all their heat pumps at 2025. I wouldn't know when that was done, but
So is it possible to, once again, back to depreciation, a lot of times you'll see a 30-year depreciation schedule on facilities to.
but we're not paying taxes.
No, I'm using the analytics where you add up the values and say, okay, if we applied so many years of depreciation, this is what it would be. And put that much away. So there's based on some.
Life analytics.
We haven't, we don't, I don't think we have 30 years, and we've had the building committee that we're gonna have numbers for whether it's the courthouse roof or the heat pumps or whatever it is, and then, yeah, we'll have to. You know, if we expect the heat pumps to be in the next 7 years, we'll have to figure it out.
But I think we gotta put something away, how you get there, I don't know.
So that's capital. We also talked about, Reed is here. If you had questions, the AIS and buffer fund are, they're not going away, but they're greatly reduced, aren't they? Or are they?
Yeah, so, in years past, we have gotten roughly 50 grand for AIS. It's gonna go down to about 25 here the next year. And I don't think it's gonna hang around that much longer after that, to where it'll go to probably 0 or very little. And then as far as the repair and aid or the buffer money, we get about 100, and we used to send only about a quarter of that, so 25 for the Sioux, but then when we did the ditch transfers, it's now half, because they have over half the admin, so it's 50, 60 grand worth. So there's a pretty good cut there, and then Bowser's said a couple of times they're moving more towards maintenance versus getting the important set of buffer stuff, so just keeping buffers in place, so the funding will probably decrease there as well. But what we have is a bunch of years worth of funding that are specifically earmarked for those two items. But there's never a running tally of what those accounts have in them. So I think Troy is actually, we're trying to get whatever that number is, and then work our way to start chipping away at using that.
So we're gonna start using that projected fund, and at some point between now and the end of the year, we'll come with a number, and we're gonna start using that to help offset wages until it's gone.
Okay.
Then one more on building is, or on budget, excuse me, yeah, and then the next meeting we'll have a resolution to amend the budget.
Okay, EMS, oh,
The 26 budget, yep. So we've got a few things we wanna move into different baskets.
are we done there then?
Yep.
Okay. EMS committee, we kind of went over that this morning. So, Neil, do you have anything?
Nope.
Tina, anything on that?
No, just the draft agreement, that the county attorney drew up. You guys received that. The committee, we still have work we have to do on it, but that will be coming back at a later date to the board, for approval.
All right, personnel committee. Troy and Doyle.
You're up to speed on what we've done.
Okay. Highway committee,
I didn't get a follow-up.
I got something, Bill.
Okay.
I went out to the bridge, on the Harrison Bridge there and looked at what was going on, and it's quite a adventure they got going on out there, but it's the big crane out there, and they got the east side concrete done the way it looked to me, and they were pouring the west side.
Yeah.
But they're doing it with water moving underneath them. Sometimes they'll reroute the channel, but not in this case, but it looks like it's going pretty good. But there's a lot of equipment out there, and I could kind of see in my mind now why the cost was up there a little bit on that thing. So, but I'm happy we're getting that in, and the one up on in Pelican Lake Township is in. And I'm glad to hear from the senator that the bridge bonding is coming through because we need bridge bonding in this county, you know, but all the other counties do too, but, you know, and they've been patching, they've been working hard, the highway department, this patching is, labor intensive the way it looks to me, and, but they tried to patch County Road 4, which was in poor shape, just to get it through until we get some bridge bonding. So, yeah, so they're working hard, so. Okay, so that's it for that then. Public Safety Committee, Troy and Doyle.
Well, we did the UPS, you know, the only other thing is this letter that came in yesterday, the committee hasn't talked about it, or it's as new to us as it is to you, you know, to the non-members of the committee. My concern with that proposal, you know, and it's my concern, is that currently at $58 an hour for contract rate, you still have, let's just call it $2 an hour. I'd probably more of a $2 an hour that the county levy is subsidizing patrol hours in any one of the cities. Under that proposal, that goes to about $30 an hour. So now you have that bare land that we don't wanna add tax to, it's subsidizing $21 every hour of patrol time in a town. That's, to me, that's a problem.
Well, after reading that letter, I guess I commend someone taking the initiative. But I'm really concerned that we don't focus ourselves solely on how to fund that department and not look at how the department's operating and the spending. Because that is important as when we address contracts or shifting to it's the operational side. And I know the committee is, but I really think that's important.
Yeah, so, you know, what my feelings are on our police contracts, I just look at, why wouldn't Minneapolis just say, Hennepin County, you take this over then? Or Alexandria saying Douglas County, take it over. Benson, Battle Lake, take it over then.
Well, I can answer the Minneapolis one, because I think they're headed to court, is they have in their charter, they have a staffing level they have to meet.
They do.
And they're not meeting it, so
Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is that where the people are, that's where the responsibilities are greater for law enforcement. And, you know, I just, that's just how I feel, and, you know, so we'll see how it goes, but. You got anything on that, Bill?
No comment.
Doyle?
not right now.
Okay. All right, so solid waste.
We met, but I don't think we really had any groundbreaking. It was basically just, we're operating and laid out what's gotta get done next year. We got the ordinance changes to do, and
There was some discussion about TFC, and how Pope Douglas is addressing whether they can continue to accept some of that waste. That's kind of between Ingebrigtsen and,
well, Ingebrigtsen, Pope Douglas, and
yeah,
there's change coming there.
we're kind of out of that loop, but we're right close to the loop.
I know there's been things that aren't, yeah, quite right for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Strategic Planning Committee,
Do we want to advertise? We have, remember when we started, the public members, we had 3, 2, 1 for terms, so we have one that's coming up. Do we want to go ahead and advertise to fill that 1-year spot with it'll be a 3-year now going forward. I'm assuming we do.
Well, we had a resignation, the person in that position.
In the 1-year spot?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm. And so, I guess, looking for direction on if we should advertise to fill that.
That's what our policy said we'll do, so.
even though do you have an app, you said?
No,
Oh, you don't, okay, remember, okay,
That must have been.
yeah,
Sure. What are you looking for, Mr. Chair, motion?
do we need a motion?
I don't think so.
That's what we've always done.
I know.
We said that's what we were gonna do it.
So I would, well, if we're gonna have a motion, I'll make a motion that when a public vacancy in the strategic planning committee comes available, we just advertise, we follow our policy to fill it.
Okay, we have a motion by Troy, we have a second.
Second.
We have a second by Kenny. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. West, okay, Horizon Public Health, well, we got a meeting on Monday, go ahead. Right?
Yep.
So that's when the new leadership, be running that first meeting there. And, Ann was done on July 2nd, I think. So I think it will go good. We're, change is change and. But I'm pretty sure it will go good. They hired a new financial person and, I haven't met him. But, we'll meet him on, well, I'm actually gonna meet him in the morning. Cause we have a finance committee meeting at 8 o'clock, so. Okay, so Western Prairie Human Services. We got a meeting coming up on Friday. So. That got pushed back a week because of the 4th of July weekend, so. Okay, so. With that. I see we have a 1 o'clock,
Two appropriation requests, one at 1 and one at 1:30.
okay. So I'll just, what do we do? We just,
The motion to.
No, it's recess still.
Recess.
right, do we need a motion, or I can just read that?
You can just recess.
Okay, we'll recess then until 1 o'clock. It's 10:36 a.m. Okay, I'm gonna call the Grant County Commissioner meeting back in order from recess. We're gonna look at 2 appropriation requests this afternoon, and the first one is from Soil and Water. Rick, you wanna give us your spiel?
Yep. Thanks for letting me come to the meeting here. Basically, just gonna review our budget a little bit with you with a request to the county for allocations. I guess to start off with, we are requesting just a 4% increase from last year. If you go through the budget I did send out, basically it's the requesting 126,163 or 165 from the county based off of our previous years with a 4% increase. We still took a hit from the state last year, which is the same hit this year, which is about $45,000. So we're doing what we can. Everything's kind of on track for this year. If you look at the back, even with that increase, we're still short about $40,000. Sometimes there's other programs that come available that we're able to recoup some of that money with, which was this year we were able to recoup a little bit through our irrigation program as well. So basically with that, I did hand out kind of a summary of just letting you guys know what we're doing and what kind of money we're bringing into the county. Viewed a lot of this with you in the past, but as far as what we assist the county with, we assist them with Wetland Conservation Act, planning and zoning, comprehensive local water plan, DAWs when needed, lakeshore zoning, Boise Sioux permit reviews, taxable for lands, state public law, as well as link reporting to volunteer for state grants. Next on there, it just shows the programs that we administer. The top line shows the money we brought into the county just over the last 12 months, roughly about $3.6 million. But that, a lot of that's easement money as well as soil health money. And then also a lot of conservation erosion projects being done. This kind of gives you a summary of stuff we're working on. Soil health programs, currently we got $600,000 allocated to contracts. We probably have that much more in requests on my desk, trying to get approved. We did have a special irrigation RCPP this past year. It was, I think there's 25 counties that were eligible for it, about $4 million worth of funding at this time. We were able to get 2 contracts out of about 10 that we submitted, for about $357,000 for irrigation upgrade stuff. One watershed, one plans, kind of the same as it has been. There's been really no increases on it over the years, but we have been allocating as much funds as we can to projects. There shows in the past year again, we've allocated $480,000 towards projects. We have paid out what we're allocated. Kind of gives a synopsis below there, what we've been doing. Basically consists of set basins, shoreline restorations, and the main big ones for the Boise Sioux anyways. And we also have a lot of requests we're working on for additional projects coming forward. So kind of shows there again, estimated $570,000 or $600,000 of more projects in the works. Sometimes it takes a few years just to get the money allocated to them, because again, that money is allocated to multiple counties for each watershed, and it's usually about that $1 million for about 5 to 7 counties, depending on the watershed. So behind that is the back page there, just shows the Pond Repair. Again, doing a lot of shoreline buffer plants, some shoreline buffer plantings, set basins, and shoreline restorations. Being focused on, currently was Pelican Lake as our high priority. We have now moved a little bit to Pond Repair Lake, just keep moving down the chain. We're finishing up the Pond Repair assessment as we speak. So as of right now, those are, again, spent about $100,000 worth of allocated or paid out projects. And about $700,000 worth of allocation or requests, I should say, for everything from set basins to shoreline restorations. So the Chippewa watershed, it's fairly new. We just haven't had much interest down there yet, or haven't had many people walking through the door yet. But there is some funds available for that as well. We just haven't been able to tap into them as of yet. So again, just showing we paid out nearly $700,000 this past 12 months on those kind of projects. We have about 1.5 million allocated to programs. Again, we have many more on the desks waiting for either money or us to get approved. So just a review of our other programs, conservation contracts, we get $14,000 a year. We designate all that to project money. We are allowed to potentially use some for admin, but we like to keep it all going to projects if we can afford to, which we've been trying to focus on. Because 14,000, that's your general fund for the whole county, just doesn't go very far. We've been utilizing a lot of that money for windbreak establishments. With a lot of these storms, there's been a lot of people interested in reestablishing the windbreaks. We've been trying to keep that fund available for those. In the past year, again, the CRP incentive program. This year, again, we were able to allocate just about $22,000 in incentives that we will be paying out this summer or early fall. But that's all the funds that were available. So it just shows again, last fall we paid out $115,000 just about in CRP incentives. So the RIM program, we closed on 4 easements this past year for 450 acres roughly, for a total of almost $2.8 million. Those have also created a lot of workload and stuff too for reestablishment on different things, restorations, whatnot. The ABMP loan stuff, it's our low interest loans that are eligible for septic systems, conservation tillage, conservation projects, all kinds of different conservation related activities. We had one of them this past year for 57,000. We do have a sizable pot available there for if anybody else is interested in conservation related activities. So again, can be used for no-till, strip-till machines, sulfurs, anything that's conservation related. So. And then the Ag Water Quality Certification Program is that state program where you can certify your farm as being compliant with everything, with all the rules, and you don't have any significant erosion on your site. You do have one new approved Ag Quality Certification person this year. We have a couple more in the hoppers. Buffer law compliance, of course, we help with that. We oversee that each year by doing reviews. I think this last year we were able to get, I don't have the number in front of me, but at least 20 to 30 more sites in compliance on some buffer stuff. So we're still working on trying to get to that 100%, and we're not too far away from it. So it's moving along in a good direction. Some of the other programs that we assist with people with is in CRP as needed. Landowner requests and questions on a daily basis. Provide field days every other year, provide county tours, which you're all invited to every other year. In K-12 education that may be needed. We help out with the Envirothon every year. Provide yearly program updates to our crop consultants and lenders in the county. We hold a meeting once a year in the spring to update them on programs so they can help kind of spread the word to their individuals. We've been doing the rain gauge monitoring for that for quite a few years now. We're still continuing that and get new people added to that every year. We've been doing some in our well monitoring. There's 6 wells in the county we monitor on a quarterly basis. We do have rain barrels available again this year if people are interested. And then we also provide water tests at our office to the water testing stuff. So yeah, basically, I just want to review that with you. If you got specific questions, again, I think most of this was emailed to you. I don't know if you have any specific questions or anything I can answer. More than pleased to.
I got one, Mr. Chair. Is it arsenic water testing kits, or what is it testing for?
Yeah, so we just have general water tests for multiple different things that R&D labs have given us to be able to give out. And then they send them in and have to still pay for those tests. Now, there is a grant through, I think it's that we're a part of as well that provides 50% cost share for well tests as well. There's also another new grant just came available that the application period is due at the end of next week, which we're looking into. Which that will pay for 100% of testing for wells up to 5 items. So it's arsenic, iron, lead. Yeah, whatever it's 5 tests, it's about $200 test. But there's providing, if we get accepted for that, there'll be funds available to do that. And again, it's geared first towards, actually children or pregnant people.
Right.
Or infants and that stuff. We haven't quite made all our decisions yet, but I'm thinking right now would be as, you know, if we get accepted, we just start taking applications, and then maybe after the first 6 months or so, then it's open doors to everybody. So we show a priority to the infants and that stuff first, and then there is no limitation that you can't provide it to the general public. So again, we're looking into that and kind of looking through all the caveats of that at this time. But yeah, so that's.
It's a good service. Right, for people if they got questions.
I got a question, Brent. I understand that increase and stuff goes up. I see at the end of May, your balance sheet showed a little over $1 million of equity. Is this normal, and is that a balance that equates to what you do, or talk about how you've gotten to $1 million?
Yep. So basically, the $1 million has come through the different grants and different things over a number of period of years. In your packet there's a copy of our unrestricted balance sheet, which our board has approved. This was approved many years ago we wanted to work towards a 2-year balance that would cover us for if we didn't get a penny from anywhere, it would cover the district for 2 years. This kind of came about mostly from back in the mid-2000s. The district was cut, this was before I was with the district, I was with NRCS at that time. The district was cut significantly and it was very, very tight for a couple of years, many years actually. So in turn, we were able to, through different avenues, slowly build that up. So based off that, it's a 2-year, there's 2 years worth there. On top of that, there's $300,000+ worth of liabilities regarding to project money that's in our account. So that money is already designated to soil health, conservation practices, etc. So that's, that's not our time or anything else. That's just that money. The other thing with it to keep in mind is a lot of times our projects are getting more and more expensive every year. It's not uncommon for us to have a $150,000 to $300,000 project right now. So when the cost share comes around for those, typically the landowner submits their bills, we do all our stuff, and then we pay the 75% cost share roughly. Some of those funds are available for reimbursement through the watershed-based plans or through Bowser, but sometimes those can take months, sometimes to get back. So again, utilizing some of that reserve for those purposes, so we don't have to have the producers waiting on, 2 to 3, 4 months after they've done it to get paid, and the contractors want to be paid right away.
So back to let's just say $1 million, or is the 2-year and just the operational working capital you call it, is that about the number that you like, or is that high or low?
It's right now, it's a little bit above the 2-year. I think our 2-year is 920,000.
So it's pretty close.
It's pretty close. It's 113% actually. Yeah. The other thing is, the district hasn't really purchased anything drastic for many years. Our vehicles are getting pretty old, so we've been looking into getting some vehicles, or at least a vehicle, and stuff like that. So I think the other thing is like our server is getting fairly old. We've been quoted about $25,000 just with a server. You're looking at $70,000 per truck, and some different things like computers and all that kind of stuff. So, printers getting fairly old. There's a lot of things that are, they're working right now, but you just never know when it's going to give out. And, so, based off that, like I said, we're just a little bit above it, but it wouldn't take very long to, once we purchase a couple of things, to get below that. So.
Thank you for your answer.
Mr. Chair, I got a question. So you guys are still leasing, right?
Yes.
Okay, has that price tag went up on your lease?
Our lease, we lease individually from the landlord, not with the USDA anymore. So yeah, our lease has gone up a little bit, but our landlord's been pretty generous with us. But then also the district and myself help out a lot of little things around the office. So, but yeah, it's usually about a 5% or so increase. But then we do lock it in for a couple of years at a time. So that's gonna work out pretty well. So.
Okay, good.
Any other question?
Brent, could you just say the request number again to make sure I got it right?
Yep, so basically what our request would be is for $126,166 out of general county allocation. And that represents a 4% increase from last year, which was 121.6 or something like that, I think it is.
So with that, then today, what's our next step there? Do we approve that today, or it's just get put in?
Yep, it's just a chance
Yeah.
for people to come and promote.
Yeah.
what they're
Halfway.
doing. And put their request in, and then we can give that to the auditor when they're working on budgets, and then it'll come through on the preliminary budget on the board. Oops.
Anybody else have any other questions I can answer? Yeah, we're always here for everybody in the county. I mean, we've tried to diversify a little more with even city people and not so much just farmers, like short people and other things too. So it's been busy, I will say that. And that's keeping everything under control and or not in control, but just keeping caught up with everything. So I'll keep coming through the door on a regular basis.
So I got a question, Mr. Chair, your SWCD aid, that $124,000.
Yep.
Did you get 1 year's allocation or
So-
you said broke out?
Yeah, so it's a biannual allocation for 2 years. That's each year is that much. Last year we got cut 33,000 from that cut.
Okay.
It was previous to that. We have been, the MASWCD office has been allocated, trying to work with the state to try to cut up that. Because a lot of people are hurting because of that cut and or just because expenses keep going up. So, but that is a general allocation of the general treasurer budget. So it is a little bit more security versus we never had that before. So, I mean, before we never had that guarantee, which nothing's ever guaranteed, I guess. But yeah, that's a per year thing, which we get that check usually in August and December, half 50/50.
And again, they don't, it comes out directly out of the Department of Revenue, not through Bowser's budget,
Yeah,
right?
this one comes directly from the revenue.
Right. Okay, good.
So I got one more question.
Yeah.
So I remember we talked about, and you came a couple of months ago and gave us a update on the watersheds and what's going on.
Yep.
In the future, since this is kind of new, can you envision what you did today and what you did a couple months ago being together and become one? Or do you think it should be separate?
I guess not quite sure what you mean, I guess.
Well, you remember you came to our
Yep.
board meeting, you were on the agenda.
Yep,
Say
yep.
this, could this be part of that presentation?
Yeah, I mean, a lot
It
of
could
this,
have been, it could, I'm not look, I mean, we like you to come,
yep,
but like you're busy and could that be integrated into one where you give us a department update? Like you just did, plus the request?
yeah, yep, nope, that'd be, I mean, I sure can. I mean, it's a lot of the same information like you just mentioned, Senator. I just kind of again want to relay, even when I put some of these numbers together, it kind of opened my eyes a little bit. 3.6 million in the county this last year is a lot. So I mean, like you say, putting it all together as the request for this time of year, I'm more than fine with that. And I'm more than fine if you guys ever need an update mid-year on anything. More than willing to come down whenever you need, always, my door is always out. Open, so.
Just an idea, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Any other question? Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for the work you do.
For stopping them up.
Thanks, Brent.
No problem.
I was not as Johnny on the spot. So I went to that and bring everyone.
How you doing, Libby?
I'm awesome. You should see me in action. I said, doing something.
I can only imagine. I've seen you in action.
I should have went before Brent, because this was a lot more professional put together, but. Back option, you're getting me. Top page should be. Kind of what our needs and wants are, future projects and that kind of thing, I'm just trying to put them together. What's on the top burner, there's about 150 things behind that. But these are the things that are on the front burner of our stuff. I guess I'll start out with, we're not asking for any increase. We're asking for the $25,000 that we've been receiving to help operate. And these are the things that money helps go to. So I included in the packet
got a profit loss statement that I brought to you guys back when we were doing the stuff for the building. All I have is 24, 25, so gave you that, but I also included the financial statement from our accountant, Morrison Associates. So that should be this one, got a cover page on it. So I didn't know which one would be cleaner for you guys to read or which one you guys would want to read, so. That's kind of that. Our budget last year, I believe the expenses came in just over $220,000, what we kind of spent on. There, it's all line itemed out where things are going. That was last year before the new building. Once we get through this, I can give you a quick update of the building.
You went backwards 10,000 last year.
Correct. We took it out of operating to our operating outfit to get back steady until state money came in. That goes till September. Oh, 1st of September, I think is our fiscal year. So then our county money and some money comes in after that, right? So, yeah. Last year, the first year in 3 years, I believe we dipped into our operating. We've been running pretty close to zero every year. Electrical upgrade, I believe that was an unexpected bill last year, 25,000 that came in that we didn't see coming. So.
Everything's old.
Yeah, it's not everything. The core area is getting a lot newer.
The electrical.
A lot fresher. The electrical is a constant chase. We started that about 10 years ago. We put a new transformer in that we were responsible for. And then just have been working out from there on the necessities. The barns where the fans are on the animals, that was the first thing we did. Make sure that they always have air moving across them. We just did the midway area or kind of big grassy area. We have the power poles in front of like the office, old office and all the way down. All of them need to be upgraded. They have all old power on them. No ground in some of them, so. Yeah, it's roughly 20 grand is kind of what they were shooting from the hip, but we'll have
That maintenance number?
What's that?
20,000?
Yeah, that would be part of that. No, it'd be underneath the future projects. Upgrade, electrical upgrade, remaining power lines. I should have put numbers on it, but I did this an hour before I came. It's a touch busy. Right now. Running and gunning. So like we agreed, I think it was back in March when we were here. And you guys agreed to the bill, or last fall, when we agreed to the bill, and we kind of said that we wouldn't ask for an increase to our budget. With you guys giving us a new building down there.
Any other questions, Libby?
If something arises, give me a call. Try to be an open book as much as we could. Pretty black and white. For us, anyway.
Without Ag Bash, it wouldn't exist.
It would not. Well, it would exist, it just wouldn't look the same.
No.
The events that we have are carried by AgMash.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so, let's have Libby give us the update on the building.
There, that one's a lot easier. It's not done yet, but we're anticipating by Thursday, the building should be ours. Cozy Plumbing is in there, F2H Electric and MTV are finishing up things today. They should be, barring any hiccups, should be done today. Little light maintenance things tomorrow, and Thursday's our building, so. Saturday is cleanup day. We're planning on moving in stainless steel coolers, all the stuff that we removed from the old building. Some of it's new, that was shot, but, for the most part, we're gonna utilize as much as we possibly can. The only thing that won't get done is the hood that goes above the fryers.
Yeah.
The, fan is backward 3 to 4 weeks yet, so probably won't get done, but everything else looks amazing. Building project is on budget. We did get some in-kind donations and some financial donations, so we added on some concrete, connected all the concrete, so you can go from one end of the fairgrounds to the other on concrete with a wheelchair, at least 5 foot wide concrete.
Nice.
The ADA bathroom, there's a 1 stall ADA bathroom inside the building now, so for emergencies, if it's raining, that kind of thing. We did decide to upgrade the sewer and water all the way back to the city. So we got some added expense there, but we got some donations came in to help us with that. That was about 25,000 to go back, with blacktop and everything to do that, but. When we got some of the donations and we've seen where things were at, how deep they were, that's tying in the 4-H building, the new bathrooms and the new building. So we kind of put it to all the buildings that had sewer and water, got all new sewer and water underground now, and it's deep, so it won't have any issues. We still will blow out all the lines, but at least it gives us a shot at that.
So, do you have an idea, other than if the county committed, how many approximate dollars of the donations that you received?
I'm gonna be guessing because, the in-kind ones are a little harder, right?
Yeah.
The tear downs, the free gravel, the miscellaneous skid road stuff and whatnot, but I'm gonna say give or take 100,000.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Help make some things. I hope y'all can make it down there that weekend to see it, or if you wanna come down anytime and check it out. I can kind of explain, but we put some concrete pads. In fact, there's a group of people came up with $7,000 for trees. They wanna put more trees out there. Asked if they raised the money and took care of it all, if we do it, we agreed. Shade is a good thing. I mean, so little things like that. I mean, people are taking some pride in the building. It's been kind of unbelievable. I mean, you know that it's there, but it's really been nice to have the people, and there's a lot of traffic through there. The contractors get kind of frustrated sometimes because of people stopping by, but it's been really, really good. So very few hiccups. Everything's been kind of just go. So been very fortunate. But yeah. So
So I got a question for you, Mr. Chair. I'm gonna ask him this question. How big a service did you put in that building?
1 inch.
Whoa,
1 inch sewer and 1 inch line. Not kidding. 4 inch 4 inch sewer and 1 inch.
You did a 4-inch?
We did 4 inch, that's what Jody, so. That was something I didn't know, but when you hook after the city, then has to be a state approved plumber.
It is.
So Jody did that, and that's what he spec'd out, was a 4 inch to every building, so it's not a really long stretch. They came out of the main deep and then split off 3 ways, so. It's not a real long run of 4 inch.
Okay.
There is no drain in the main part. We did not put a floor drain in. The expense of that to put what do you call it, fire trap or whatever, the oil trap in that was more than we were willing to put a floor drain in. Something we didn't need, but maybe in the future we would.
Explosion proof thing.
There you go. Yeah, it outweighed the benefit.
But I think we had to put sprinklers in too.
Then we would have had to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did not at this time.
Right, and then you need at least a 6-inch water supply
Right.
for sprinkler. What that is.
And we couldn't afford that either.
No,
No, we didn't have that much.
so it's just a 1-inch plastic that went in there.
1 inch plus, it might be 1.5 inches actually.
Okay.
Yep, I believe it's an inch. Yep. Coming in feeding the buildings. Yep.
Nice.
We did have some money come in, to help us. It was $20,000 to insulate and steel up the rest of the building, because there's so many doors in the building. So there wasn't a lot of steel left to do. So, we did that for that family that donated that money. So the building is finished up, does not have heat, does not have air conditioning in it, nor at this time will it, but it is set up for future. We're trying to build a 100-year building or more, so it was kind of it ain't gonna get cheaper.
Yeah, so I got a question, if you, insulated and prepared, but you didn't put a floor drain in it, what? The chicken and the egg of that?
Well, if we don't have any plans in the future for us for heating it, but if somebody were to wanna rent it, the expense just outweighed it. I mean, it was gonna be Danish 6 figures to do what we wanted. If we would do it all, same package versus 20,000, it's cooler in there right now. And it was the main thing for us, and noise. When it's raining and the doors are all shut, it's very quiet in there. A tin building gets really, really loud if it's not insulated. So that was part of it, noise control.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was discussed heavily. It just came down to budget.
Sure.
Budget cut. That's all.
You can directional bore something in there if you needed to.
You know, the concrete guy said there's multiple ways to come back and do that in the future if it came to necessity. Like I said, if we did heat it and we were putting snowballs in it, we're gonna need floor drains, we're gonna need to figure it out. His thought was put a sump in, and you'd pump it. I mean, there's multiple different ways to do it. You know, it wouldn't be ideal, but it would be doable for the short term. So. It's a pretty amazing building. We are all super proud of what we have down there, and we're very grateful for what you guys did to help us out to make that happen. It's pretty dang impressive, and the groups and the people, there's people around the area coming out, and just strange people that you don't see around town much are out there checking things out, checking out the fairgrounds, and there's a lot of changes. The beer garden came down, that got moved in there, and the Lions Club's gonna go in there. Just a lot of things. The Business Expo, I think they got 20-some businesses are gonna be in there on Saturday for the Business Expo. Wow. So it's been really nice to have. It's a safer building by far. So.
When you come to start with, you talk about signage.
Mhm.
Has that been done, or did it turn out decent?
So like you're talking sponsor sign?
Yeah.
Yep, so we opted to go to banners at this time, so they're gonna be a 2x4 banner. And they'll be on the east wall, so when you walk in, they'll be on there it'll be for anybody who supported the building, donations physically or financially. So, yep, that TikTok, but yeah, Wednesday or Thursday at the fair, we'll put them up probably by the time we get to it, but hopefully they're here Saturday, we can do it on cleanup day. Our goal is Saturday when we leave that the fair is ready, we turn the lights on and go.
Good.
I got one more thing. You guys ain't busy on Thursday. You wanna come serve root beer floats at the kickoff of the fair, we're gonna grand opening of the new building. We're gonna do root beer floats for the 250th birthday of America.
Bill's the only one that can.
We got that taken care of. Tina said she would take care of that.
Thank you, Tina. We appreciate it.
She just brought it up before you showed up, so.
So you're gonna put like red, white and blue and have a big top hat or something on it?
Oh man, she'll probably good, yeah.
I like it. Then you go in the dunk tank after,
Yeah.
then she throw that.
I'll put my Richard Nixon glasses on.
Right on. But as always, if you guys have any questions, just give me a call. You don't have my number, I know Doyle and Tina do. Give me a call, swing down, find me at the fair, go to the office and have them radio. It's not gonna be easy to find me otherwise, but maybe. See, maybe they can pick me up, but then I can sit in the beer garden. Awesome. Thanks for what you guys do. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your work.
Absolutely. Hang on, it's storming and her, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
See you, Libby.
Don't need the rain.
Nah, agreed. Here, you move.
Okay, well. That's the end of our request for today. So I'll just adjourn the meeting at 1:36 PM. Thank you.